afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin show for your Wednesday. It's a Wednesday edition. Losing track of all time here. What a wild day it was. I actually was in the camp of thinking we'd have a bullish day if Trump won the presidency, and lo and behold, we had a monstrous day, which we'll talk about in just a second. But first thing before I do anything, today will be the first time in 1,013 shows that I will do a 30-minute, might even be 29-minute show. Reason is I have an interview starting it in 30 minutes. So gonna have to wrap up and get that one. I got interviews all day today, doing some graphic design stuff. So trying to find a nice graphic designer, visual animator, video editor, CapCut editor, all of which you will see the benefits of some of the cool stuff that Trading Academy is going to do. So anyway, let me move on. It is, of course, post-election day. I have to say that it doesn't matter whether my take on Trump is good or bad, but I'm happy that it was kind of a blowout. Not a blowout, but it wasn't close. It wasn't like, oh, well, this was cheating, this is lying, this is stolen. At least there's clear victory. And the good news now is you'll stop receiving those calls. Door-to-door people are all going to go away. And now we can work on trading, investing, and growing our accounts for the next 4 years under this administration, which should be, for the most part, pretty bullish. So that will be the topic for today. Kind of the results are in. And, of course, it's not... Well, I guess it is pretty much certain at this point. There still are some districts that need to vote and some stuff that needs to come in, but right now it looks fairly commanding, like we will have a President Trump for the second term as number 48. Decisive. That's the term I was looking for, Big Eb. Not something that was kind of marginal. It was decisive. So whether you love it or hate it, again, I feel that doesn't matter to me. We all have to work through it, whether we love it or hate it. Bottom line is, this guy, as we talked about yesterday or on Monday with Larry, there are a couple of major areas that he's going to benefit. And I went back through our notes and just kind of took some things down. Number one on there was financials. And you may remember, is he 48? I thought he was 48. See, making mistakes already. Goodness gracious. All right, fine. I'll fix it right now. For some reason, I thought he was 48. Maybe I was just anticipating a third term. That's what it was, guys. I was anticipating a third term. So Trump will take office. Then he'll vote that you can have a third term. So we'll have 12 years up until, I don't know. Sorry, I'm making up. Thank you. For some reason, I could have sworn that he was 40th. All right. Anyway, it was 45 and 47. Biden was 46. Got it. So, we talked about on the end of the show yesterday, he said one pick that Larry would go with if Kamala won was United Health Group. Mine was JP Morgan. And boy, howdy. Let's go. Big Eb. Foreshadowing right there. He says 48 is Vance. Yeah, that would be interesting. That would be very... I mean, look, they tried to take him out twice, so you better have some pretty good Secret Service detail. I want to go bring up JP Morgan, and I'm going to just kind of start at the base here and work our way up. I mean, JP Morgan, huge jump today. And mind you, no one's taken office yet. Nothing has fundamentally changed except the expectation of what might happen starting in January. 11.54% for JP Morgan, and I thought I would do this for you just so I could zoom out to the weekly time frame just to make it a really clear picture that this is something that has never been seen before for JP Morgan. Let's just say Jamie Dimon is rich today. Not that he wasn't rich yesterday, but made a ton more money. So XLF would be the other one if you're looking for diversified instruments. 6% gain in financials alone today. Incredible moves. Really, really powerful stuff to the upside. And then if you look at point number 2, we had energy on that page. Energy also looking really good. I'll bring up XLE. I mean, nice move up for the entire sector. 3.73%, bigger than the indexes themselves. S&P was up 2.49%. NASDAQ up 2.72%. So this was far outpacing the performance for the S&P 500. Love it. Good news there for anybody who's holding long energy. Of course, I'm not at this point in time. Next on my list was defense, right? Looking at Northrop Grumman and Raytheon or RTX. Now, they started off pretty good. They were up 2%, but then started to give back. Here's Northrop Grumman, RTX. RTX up 2.19%. We could kind of go through different defense stocks there. But really, the big one, and for anybody who's been in my crypto programs, I did an XLT general session this morning. I won't spend a lot of time on this today, but if you guys are members of Trading Academy and you have access to the general session for XLT, you should log into that one today. I did a pretty in-depth piece on exactly what Trump said he was going to do. Of course, we know when presidents take office, quite often what they do is very different than what they said they were going to do. In my experience, just with every president, They pander to the populace. They say they're going to do all these great things. And then, at the end of the campaign, you're like, well, wait a minute. You didn't finish this. So anyway, if you have access, check that out in the XLT general session. It was recorded this morning. And basically, I went through all the key things that Trump said he was going to do for cryptocurrency and digital assets specifically. Nothing else, just cryptocurrency and digital assets, and the impactful things like interest rates, like Gary Gensler, like strategic reserve for the United States, and things like that. So check that one out if you want more information. I thought that was pretty good. Bottom line is my fourth piece on here, which probably should be number one, crypto. And I think many of you today are just, maybe aghast by what happened with crypto today. It was a big day for crypto. I'll bring up the list of cryptos here just so you guys can see. The weakest performer I had on here was a digital representation of gold, which is PAX-G, and that was down 3%. Mobi, which is a helium byproduct, is down. Everything else up 8, 9, 10. I mean, all of these cryptos here up double digits. Near, Engine, Ethereum was up 10.8%, Avalanche is up 11.5%, you had Dogecoin up 16%. I mean, huge movers today, but of course the big daddy, Bitcoin up 9.66%, all-time highs. I mean, this is a fantastic chart, and for those of you like myself who have been watching this chart, we've been talking about the uptrend, building strength, really saying that the backstop was going to be, first it was 50, then jumped it to 60. I actually thought we'd stop at 70 on this last pullback. Went a little bit below that, and now all of a sudden, screaming to the upside and broke all-time highs, which is 73,974. So we're already over $2,300 higher than the all-time high. And, the momentum, in my opinion, is going to carry this thing significantly higher. I did mention that my forecast was 100,000 by the end of the year. Given this momentum and the changes in the talk track that Trump says he's going to put in place, 100,000 is very, very, very realistic. Yeah, Liz talking about Coinbase. When I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I sold puts on Coinbase. And I said multiple times during that show, I want to own Coinbase. I said, if you think Trump's going to win this, Coinbase is your stock to buy because it's going to be a direct beneficiary of Trump kind of protecting crypto. Now, not only did he say positive things about Bitcoin, but remember, he also started his own cryptocurrency, which means we'll probably see lax rules on DeFi marketplaces so that his coin can thrive and he can make some money off of that one. So, man, it looks like on the up and up positive for crypto. I know many of you are long Bitcoin. This is obviously a big power candle today, almost 10% gain for Bitcoin. I certainly would expect there to be a little bit more upside before we get a pullback here. And then we'll have a little bit of a pullback, and then things will really start to continue. I'll bring up that Coinbase chart for you. Obviously, I'm not going to get filled on my puts today. 31% jump for Coinbase. Goodness gracious. Why didn't I just buy it outright? I think I had the 160 puts on that, and we're already $100 higher than what my puts are. I mean, that was really, really pretty amazing. Anyway, so all of you who are into crypto, be happy about this one. Again, you want to know more in-depth as to my thoughts and why I think we're going to see much higher prices for crypto. Watch the video at Trading Academy that was recorded today for the XLT general session. I go much more in detail there. Big Eb says, I can't wait for RFK Jr. to clean up our food and drug stuff. Well, I'll tell you, it could be a pretty, 1 second, it's going to flash on the screen here. I want to just simply close something out real quick. I've got a Teams open and a bunch of stuff is popping up on me right now, so I'm going to close it out so we don't hear any more dings. If you look at the administration, I know some people hate Trump, some people love him, but whatever. You put the right people in places, and if you can get Kennedy in there to fix up the food and drug stuff, that's great. I think we'd all agree that's probably a good thing. You get Elon Musk in there to improve efficiency of the government's overall, and you got now regulation coming in, an advisory board for crypto and digital assets. You have one thing I'm not a big fan of would be repealing a lot of the regulatory stuff that's put in place to protect things like the environment. I am one of those that thinks the environment should be protected. Otherwise, people take advantage of that. But, you have a lot of really interesting pieces that could make for a very exciting next 4 years. I for one, am pretty excited about it. Now, I thought it would also be interesting just to look and see across the spectrums of, let's say, the 11 or 12 market segments that represent the S&P 500, what did they look like? And this is just the last 2 days, just to put it into perspective. And of course, number one on this list was my number one pick, financials. 6.08% up for financials just in the last 2 days. We look at the next one's going to be industrials, which Larry and I both had industrials as being a benefactor from either one's administration. You had energy, which of course I put on the Trump side of things. You had discretionary, which neither one of us really were picking. That was up 3.2%. There's your S&P 500 up about 2.49%. Now, it wasn't all roses. There's some bad stuff in here. Utilities looking down. You had staples down as well. And finally, the worst performer on this list is real estate. I had IYR in there for that one. And now, IYR is an interesting one. If you look at what happened to the 10-year yield today, again, this is Macaulay Culkin time. You start looking at that big move in the 10-year yield. We might look at 6% mortgages being a thing of the past now. Here we go. Let me bring up your 10-year bond. You had a pretty significant move up today. It came right up to that line that I had mentioned. I've talked about this 4.5%. Well, today, intraday high on the yield for the 10-year was 4.479. So I'm going to round that up and call it a 4.5% yield. We're still stuck right now at 4.43, which is still pretty bullish. But boy, that is a gigantic move here in that 10-year. And of course, that means the cost of capital rising for longer term. That generally slows things down from an economic perspective. So initially, I think the challenge for today anyway, at least for me, is a lot of times you're looking for those correlations. Oh, well, gold impacts this, and this impacts inflation, and this, and this, and this. Today, all bets off. Today was just like, buy something. Just buy it. You'll do okay just buying anything other than bonds. And most things just screamed to the upside today, and there was a disconnect. You had the dollar. This is a pretty significant move for the dollar index as well, right? We talked about it hitting that 105 level. Well, that's where we're at right now. Big time pop to the upside. And there's quite a few things here that need to be addressed, but I'll go through the questions here. Do you think that the government Bitcoin will end up in the National Reserve? So I talked about that in the XLT general session a little bit, but let me explain it to people. Right now, you have about 200,000, a little over 200,000 Bitcoin that's held by the U.S. Marshal Services. And he said day number one, he's going to have a busy first day. Trump said at the Bitcoin conference, day number one is he's going to take all that from the Marshal Service and put it in the Treasury and basically say, you can't sell it. Now, he didn't say strategic reserve. I messed up. I thought he did say that in the past. He didn't say strategic reserve, but that's the question is, now does this Bitcoin become part of our strategic reserve and kind of become permanently off limits? I think that would be a great move. Why not? Right now, I think it's the equivalent of about $15 billion in Bitcoin. Now, $15 billion in Bitcoin is nothing. If you think of the grand scheme of things in government debt. So let me real quickly bring up here, I'll bring up the debt clock, U.S. debt clock. One of my favorite things to look at. So you go here, look, it's the U.S. debt clock, and here it is. So if you look at the national debt and let's see, one I want is the interest on the national debt. Here you go, totally interest rate percentage. Of course, my debt clock is not loading up, so we'll get that one here in just a second. Come on. Why am I getting no numbers here? This represents our clock, I guess. I got nothing. Nothing. Secret window starts tonight at 6. Okay, that's great. Just let me get my debt clock. Oh, apparently we're not going to get my debt clock here today, which is unfortunate. I wanted to show you how much interest we're paying per day. 15 billion is nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. Now, that said, if we keep that $15 billion worth of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin does what many do expect it to do, yeah, Margaret, we're debt-free. Wouldn't that be nice? Wake up in a bizarre world. If we keep those 200,000 Bitcoin, and Bitcoin does get up to, let's say, $1 million a coin, as many people are forecasting, I think it could actually get higher than that, then there might actually be the argument that we could use that strategically to pay down some of our debt, as opposed to going into a default, which many are forecasting at some point will happen. I put myself in that camp. Of at some point we'll have to default on it. We just can't continue to take on this much debt. Maybe Trump paid the debt already. Not with 15 billion, he didn't. Not with 15 billion. I'm not sure what is going on here with this page, but strange. What will happen on Thursday? Actually, let me finish with the strategic reserve. Also, in that vein where Trump said we're going to keep that Bitcoin as prior is in the Treasury. If he makes it a strategic reserve, it has much more requirements on what you can and cannot do with it. He also said that any Bitcoin that the government will get going forward will also be kept, which I think is a very, very good thing as well. All right, my numbers finally populated here. The interest on the debt, I mean, we're looking at $1 trillion worth of interest right now, but I wanted to go, that should be like per bank interest received. Oh, man, there's so many different numbers in here. It's kind of crazy. I was going to try to find the amount of debt per year just to see what that might be, but it's certainly way more than 14 or 15 billion dollars. Okay, so anyway, I think that'd be a great move for the government to keep that Bitcoin, and I think that's going to happen day one. I think that'll be an easy one if the current administration does not sell it first. Now, another interesting thing here. I realize that crypto is not like, oh, it's such a defining issue for the United States, but there are many who are saying that one of the main reasons that the Democrats did so poorly is their stance on digital assets. And I thought that was an interesting take. I'd really like to see more documentation if that is in fact one of the things. I know there's many issues. I know Elizabeth Warren right now may be happy that she won, but she definitely soured a lot of voters towards her party, that's for sure. All right, Margaret says, what will happen on Thursday? Let's go look at the Fed funds futures right now. My assumption would be that we're going to see a 25 basis point cut. And I haven't looked at the current odds to see if those changed today, at least in the last 24 hours. So right now the expectations are 97.5% chance that we are going to see a 25 basis point cut tomorrow. I'm pretty sure that that's what's going to happen. I don't see them changing course here. Remember, I'm jumping the gun. Trump said that he is going to lower interest rates. Now, he can't do that, right? It's just something that he doesn't have control over interest rates. Could he influence them? Sure. He could get rid of Jerome Powell. He could put in somebody there, look through the board and say, hey, which one he wants to keep cutting and get back to zero? All right, you're now the chairman. He can do that. And he may do that once he takes office. But remember, we've got several months before we get to January, and some things may change by then. Data may change, but I think that Thursday you're going to get a 25 basis point cut, which will probably add a little bit further electricity to this rally. I mean, today obviously was a massive risk-on moment. There will be a little bit of a pullback at some point, but it just kind of feels like not tomorrow. Maybe after the rate announcement, but I think you'll see this market continue on up based off of just optimism for rate cuts. Jerome Powell's pretty much telegraphed it. Now the question is not the November meeting, but as we get to December. So the December meeting right now is pricing in another 25 basis points. So basically, in my opinion, doing what they should have done at the last meeting, which was cut 25 and then 25 and then 25 and keep going 25s until things don't quite look right. At this rate, again, 25 November 7th, and then another 25 basis point cut on December 18th, lowering our rate for the year once we get there to 4.25 to 4.25%. Gold and silver's reaction today was predictable. Risk, well, it is, and it is from the perspective of risk on, right? We knew that Trump was going to be big for the markets. That was a no-brainer. I think anybody could have figured that one out. I guess the big question is which market segments, and I think the segments that we outlined yesterday, I think are pretty spot on. One other that we mentioned were things like commodities like steel because of the tariffs he can be putting in place. And, I don't know what to expect the next 4 years. I expect a lot of ruffled feathers. I expect a lot of hurt feelings. I expect a lot of shock factor. And I expect a lot of market volatility. Trump is not one that speaks pleasantries and kindness. Quite often when he deals with elected officials, he treats them, or international people, he'll treat them nice one day and then smash them verbally the next day. And that makes for very unstable, volatile markets, which may bring back in a period of short-term trading as opposed to kind of the longer-term stuff, which I'm happy for. Gives me an opportunity to maybe do a little bit more day trading, which I've been struggling with lately. I've been just so dang busy. I haven't had a chance to really get in there. Any bets on who the next Treasury Secretary will be? I don't think it will be Jamie Dimon. I mean, there's been talk about him being Treasury Secretary, but I don't know. He makes so much money at JP Morgan, and right now, if he has a lot of shares of JP Morgan, which he does, and they have this green light from the financial perspective, merger and acquisition getting better. You have higher interest rates, which generally equal more money, better trading. I mean, he might be entering in the next 4 years of glory days. If I'm Jamie Dimon, I'm probably staying on at JP Morgan because the money is just too dang good. Now, legacy-wise, would you like to be the Secretary of the Treasury? Sure. But when you have FU money, right, which is what what Jamie Dimon has, yeah, I mean, who cares about legacy at that point? He can do whatever he wants. Vegas, I love market volatility. I do too. I love big up days and big down. I love days like today. I mean, days like today, especially because I was kind of positioned for it. Great for me. Swing trading is back for me. I did great in 2020. Good for you. Anything other than 25 basis point cut tomorrow is going to give a really weird impression. I agree, Liz. I think at this point, they have pretty much set up 25 basis points. And anything outside of that would be kind of a shock to the system. At this moment right now, you do not want to shock that system. Yeah. Okay, here's the real shocker. All right, so you guys know I'm long Rivian. And I kept that knowing that I was probably headed for peril on this one. Remember, we talked yesterday on Monday about how Trump was talking about repealing tax credits for EV makers. And I was in this kind of, well, what's that going to do to Tesla? And I was like, I can't see him cutting back those tax credits because it would spit in Elon's face. And Elon now is, the biggest waiver of Trump's flag, which I believe had a significant impact on voters in getting them to go with Trump. I really do. I think him and Joe Rogan were big factors in people getting that final hump and really pushing it in Trump's favor. Now, it's just so many different thoughts going through my head on that one, going into 25 basis points. I was going into many different thoughts, and all of a sudden I just completely lost it. All right, well, I'll leave it there. There's a conundrum is the electric vehicle side of things. So let me bring up the charts here, and let's look at Rivian, just because. So Rivian down big today. I mean, down 8.3%. Of course, that kicked me in the gut a little bit because I got quite a bit of Rivian. Of course, I have calls against my position, which did fantastic today. Got a ton of premium on those, but not doing what I actually thought we'd kind of stop at $10 here and kind of oscillate between 10 and 11.50 for the next couple months, which would have been cash cow for me. Love it. Okay. So you look at Rivian. There's let's look at Go EV. Remember we talked about? I love this company. Just think they might be going bankrupt. I think the chart here is spelling bankruptcy for Go EV, so they weren't that impacted, down 7% today, but you're a 40-cent stock. Let's go to Lucid. All right, 5.33% slide today for Lucid, not looking good. Let's go to BYDDF. So this is BYD Motors, down 4.75% today. You had NIO. So all the EV companies really getting punched in the gut here today. And then all of a sudden, look at Tesla. 15% gain today. You got to feel like there's going to be some preferential treatment or something is going to benefit Tesla in all of this. I think we all knew that. It wasn't a shocker that if Trump won, Tesla would probably do pretty good. But this is a crazy chart considering the separation from the entire EV space. Here is Tesla soaring, everything else getting crushed. This is why you give money to the presidential candidate. Elon Musk, not only really helping Tesla out here, but man, I'll tell you, SpaceX. I think in this administration under Trump is going to happen and go public in the next 4 years. And I think, I'm happy for it. I think this needs to go public. I think this needs government green lighting. I hope that in my lifetime we land on Mars or some other planet and colonize it. I have claustrophobia. I can't imagine riding on a spacecraft for 3 weeks or something like that and getting to a planet where I can't get back home real quick and sit on my porch and have a beer. But, when I'm in my 80s, 90s, maybe I'll just call it a day and go. I had a call on Tesla today. You went long calls? I hope you went long calls because if you sold calls against it naked, man, you might be hurting. But I hope you bought some long calls in that one. Mark, options premium were really nice. Yes. Options premiums are huge today. Unfortunately, it's the opposite of what I like to do with options premium, right? I like to sell puts in really just crushed markets. And there weren't too many crushed markets. Everything was kind of rocking the upside. Let's see. Robotaxi will be here in 2 years. Robotaxi will be here. The robot itself, Optimus, will be here as well. So I'm pretty excited about that. All in all, it's hard to look at today and find a weak point other than gold and oil. Now, gold broke that 27.28 mark that we talked about. That's not good, although it's not the end of the world. I think you'll see it drop, if anything, down to this 2,600 mark. Anything below that, then I think you're going to continue to move to the downside here. Good. Long call, Oliver. Good. Crude oil also today. Inventory numbers were pretty high, was down 0.42%, but then it really just rocks to upside. You had 1.63% gain for the dollar today. For those that aren't familiar with markets, a 1.61% gain in a currency's purchasing power globally is a gigantic move. I mean, look at the size of that candle compared to anything else. There's one back here to the downside in August that's kind of close, but really nothing on this chart other than some sell-off days back in November of last year. I mean, it is a giant day for the dollar. There's your S&P, ATH, all-time highs for that S&P 500 up 2.51%. You had the NASDAQ not quite breaking all-time highs today. The all-time high for the NASDAQ 100 is 20,983, and today our intraday high was 20,935. So pretty darn close to all-time highs. Your 10-year surging to the upside. This is an area to be concerned. I think Steve mentioned this one earlier or less, saying, if this dollar continues to surge like this, I expect an equity market pullback. Agreed. Also, the fact you see bond yields surging like this. Russell 2000. Look at that picture, man. How many times this last 2 weeks have I said ascending triangle, higher lows, higher highs? This one's going to be poised for a breakout, particularly if we get rate cuts. Russell, 5.8% gain today. Boom for the Russell. And then finally, the King of Kings sitting at 76,875 in the futures markets right now. Bitcoin, all-time highs, and let's hope that momentum continues on to the upside. So fantastic. As far as economic announcements for tomorrow and today, really wasn't a lot today, but tomorrow you do have a rate announcement coming from the Bank of England, so that'll be a big one at 4 a.m. Pacific time. Yeah, 4 a.m. Pacific time. That'll be a biggie. Actually, no, hold on. This hasn't been updated for daylight savings time. Match automatically. So, yeah, that should be Thursday, 3 a.m. Pacific time is when that announcement comes out. And for the U.S. markets, you have a lot of stuff as well. We have our FOMC statement. It says 10. This is wrong. It's 11. It's always 11. But that's expected to be 25 basis point cut. You have consumer credit coming out tomorrow, natural gas storage, mortgage delinquencies, inventories, labor costs, unemployment claims. It is a busy day tomorrow. Earnings front, I didn't really see anything that's like groundbreaking and should be mentioned, but I guess I'll do that in my last 60 seconds here because I got to run. Let me bring up the earnings calendar. I want to sit back and watch it. Hey, no problem, Big Ab. You too. I wish I could have spent more time on it today, but man, I'm just interviews all day long, taking it out of my day. Here's what's cooking for tomorrow, and then I will wrap this up. That is Thursday. We have, drum roll please, as I wait for apparently my slow computer to bring up something. There we go. So you've got Block or Square, and that's pretty much your major big name out there. You got Arista Networks, Airbnb, Duke Energy, Motorola Solutions, and a few others, but that is it. Yeah, cool. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully you position yourselves accordingly. Again, whether you're jubilated because you love what happened or you're just sad and depressed, don't worry about it. It will all be okay. It will be a roller coaster ride. I think it would have been a roller coaster ride with either president. Just be happy that we're here. Enjoy it. Hopefully we can make more money off of this administration, whatever the case may be. Be optimistic. Don't hate your neighbor like my neighbor last night throwing F-bombs at me because I told him to stop launching fireworks at 11 p.m. Man, my neighbor went crazy on me last night for asking. I'm like, could you stop lighting off mortars above my house? Whoo, man. Instantly, I voted for Kamala, he said. That's because I told him to stop. Anyway, you guys have a fantastic remainder of your day. I'm going to go do this interview. Take care, everybody. Have questions, comments, feedback, things you want me to cover on tomorrow's show, email me, TraderMerlin@gmail.com. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.